Santorini, a Greek island known for its stunning caldera and rich history of volcanic activity, has recently experienced an alarming series of earthquakes. Scientists now warn that this picturesque island could be on the brink of a geological disaster. Since January 2025, the island has been rattled by an unprecedented swarm of earthquakes, over 12,000 tremors, some strong enough to be felt hundreds of miles away. Could this be a warning sign of something far more catastrophic? History has already written a grim chapter in Santorini's past. The colossal Minoan eruption and tsunami, nearly 3,600 years ago, wiped out civilizations and, some believe, gave rise to the legend of Atlantis. Now, as the ground trembles once again, experts are racing to determine whether this seismic activity signals another imminent eruption, or even worse, a tsunami that could devastate the Aegean coast. What is really happening beneath Santorini's surface? Could the earthquakes be a precursor to an impending volcanic eruption and mega tsunami? Let's find out. Don't forget to click on that subscribe button and like this video, as it's the best way to support this channel. Santorini is one of the most geologically active areas in the world. Its dramatic cliffs, submerged caldera, and frequent seismic activity are all results of its violent volcanic history. To understand why Santorini experiences frequent earthquakes and the potential risks of a tsunami, we need to explore its geological background, the forces at work beneath its surface, and the implications of its restless volcanic system. Santorini is a volcanic island complex in the southern Aegean Sea, formed by a series of eruptions over millions of years. It belongs to the Hellenic Arc, a subduction zone where the African plate is being forced beneath the Eurasian plate. This subduction process generates intense seismic activity and fuels the volcanism that created Santorini. At the heart of Santorini's geology is its massive, submerged caldera, a depression formed when the Minoan eruption emptied a vast magma chamber, causing the ground above to collapse. This caldera is now partially filled with seawater, creating Santorini's famous crescent shape. Deep below the caldera, there is a magma chamber that occasionally experiences pressure buildup. When magma moves within the chamber, it can trigger earthquakes, a warning sign of potential future eruptions. If an eruption occurs, it could destabilize parts of the caldera or trigger undersea landslides, both of which could lead to a tsunami. Located about 8 kilometers northeast of Santorini, the Colombo submarine volcano is another potential source of tsunamis. Colombo erupted in 1650, producing pyroclastic flows that entered the sea and generated a tsunami. The eruption also released toxic gases that killed residents on nearby islands. Recent surveys indicate that Colombo remains active, with an expanding magma chamber beneath it. If Colombo were to erupt again, it could potentially trigger a tsunami, especially if part of the volcano collapses or large amounts of material are displaced into the water. The recent seismic activity in Santorini began intensifying in January 2025, with tremors occurring daily. From the 26th of January to the 8th of February, the Seismology Laboratory of the University of Athens registered more than 12,800 earthquakes in Santorini. The most powerful recorded quake so far reached a magnitude of 5.3, with numerous aftershocks following. The epicenters of these earthquakes have been primarily located in the caldera and surrounding regions, raising concerns about magma movement beneath the island. As a result of the persistent seismic activity, authorities declared a state of emergency on Santorini and the nearby island of Amorgos. Over 11,000 people were evacuated from Santorini, and schools, businesses, and government institutions were temporarily closed. Scientists and emergency response teams have been closely monitoring the situation, using seismographs, GPS measurements, and satellite imagery to track ground deformation. Seismologists have indicated that it's challenging to predict the duration or potential escalation of this seismic activity. The region's complex tectonic setting means that such earthquake swarms can continue for days, weeks, or even months. Several theories have been proposed to explain the recent surge in earthquakes in Santorini. As part of the Hellenic Arc, Santorini is prone to tectonic shifts due to the subduction of the African plate beneath the Eurasian plate. Increased stress along fault lines could be responsible for the frequent tremors. Some geologists suggest that the earthquakes may be related to magma rising within Santorini's volcanic chamber. If magma is accumulating, it could indicate a potential eruption in the near future. Santorini also has a history of hydrothermal activity, with gas emissions and hot springs indicating underground volcanic processes. Changes in hydrothermal circulation might be contributing to the increased seismic activity. Understanding the cause of these earthquakes is critical for determining the level of risk posed to residents and nearby regions. One of the most pressing concerns associated with the earthquakes in Santorini is the possibility of a tsunami. Historically, large earthquakes and volcanic eruptions in the region have triggered tsunamis, such as the 1956 Amorgos earthquake, which generated a devastating tsunami in the Aegean Sea. This magnitude 7.5 quake generated a tsunami that destroyed the Cyclades. Meanwhile, if an eruption occurs in the caldera or at the Colombo submarine volcano, it could cause massive underwater displacement, generating a tsunami. Scientists believe the Minoan eruption may have caused a tsunami that reached Crete and beyond. Given Santorini's volcanic past, experts have been closely monitoring any signs that might indicate an impending tsunami. However, seismologists and tsunami experts currently assess that the risk of a tsunami remains low. The recent earthquakes, while frequent and significant, have not reached the magnitudes typically required to generate a large tsunami. Additionally, the absence of significant seafloor displacement or major submarine landslides reduces the likelihood of a tsunami being triggered by these events. But if the earthquake swarm triggers a major quake of magnitude 7 or above, the chances of a tsunami increase significantly. Despite the low immediate risk for now, precautions have been taken. Coastal regions in Greece and Turkey have installed tsunami sirens and issued emergency preparedness guidelines. Authorities are ensuring that early warning systems are functional and that evacuation plans are in place should conditions change. If a tsunami is eventually triggered by the earthquakes in Santorini, the consequences for the Aegean region and beyond could be devastating. Given the island's geological instability and its position in the Hellenic Arc, an earthquake or eruption-induced tsunami could affect multiple countries, including Greece, Turkey, Cyprus, and even parts of Italy and North Africa. The impact of such a disaster would be felt across economic, social, environmental, and geopolitical spheres. One of the most immediate and devastating effects of a tsunami is the destruction of coastal cities, towns, and infrastructure. The Aegean Sea is home to densely populated islands and major coastal cities, making them highly vulnerable. Key trade and fishing hubs would be severely damaged, crippling local economies. In addition, the Aegean relies heavily on tourism, and a tsunami could wipe out entire coastal resorts, leading to billions in economic losses. Flooding from the tsunami could render islands inaccessible, making rescue efforts nearly impossible. Power grids and desalination plants near the coast would be destroyed, cutting off essential utilities. Tsunamis don't just impact humans. They can cause irreversible environmental damage as well. Massive flooding could wipe out entire ecosystems, including coral reefs, wetlands, and marine wildlife. Unlike the Pacific Ocean, which has an advanced Pacific tsunami warning system, the Mediterranean Sea lacks adequate tsunami preparedness, which means that many could be caught off guard. Tsunamis in enclosed seas, like the Mediterranean, can strike within minutes, leaving little time for evacuation. Many residents do not know tsunami safety protocols, and few coastal cities have tsunami barriers or escape routes. However, some steps are being taken for precaution. For instance, Turkey has recently installed tsunami sirens along its Aegean coast, and the UNESCO Mediterranean Tsunami Warning System is improving regional coordination. But without major upgrades, the Mediterranean remains dangerously unprepared for a large-scale tsunami. A tsunami triggered by Santorini's recent earthquakes may not be imminent, but the potential consequences would be catastrophic. With millions of people at risk, trillions in economic losses, and irreversible environmental damage, it is clear that Mediterranean nations must take tsunami preparedness more seriously. If history has taught us anything, it's that Santorini's geology is unpredictable. The region must act now to prepare for a potential tsunami before it's too late. Through continued research, public safety measures, and international cooperation, Santorini and the surrounding areas can mitigate risks and ensure the safety of residents and visitors alike.